Okay, so let's begin, guys. So, welcome to our lunchtime webinar on how to build your very own Dream Squad practice. My name is Fozia, and I'm delighted to be here as part of the Dream Squad team. We're thrilled to have you join us today for what promises to be an insightful and engaging session. So, we have got a few more people, we're just going to admit. Okay, so before we dive in, I want to acknowledge that building your dreams practice is a journey. So one filled with like opportunities and challenges. And today we've assembled a panel of experts who will share their top tips to help you navigate this journey successfully and really giving you that confidence to take the next steps. So we are incredibly fortunate to have some of the very exclusive guests within the dental industry, each bringing a wealth of expertise in their respective fields. So let me introduce you to our distinguished panel. We have Saba Arif from Smart Dental Compliance. We have George Weston from Lloyd and White. We have Vakar Steen from On Hold Communications, and we have Harpreet Nirvan from Microminder. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi.
Okay.
Hello, hi.
Hello. So I'll be asking each of our lovely speakers to share their 3 top tips for opening a successful squat practice. So these tips will provide you with a snapshot of the valuable content that we will be diving into on the main event happening on the 27th of September. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So let's begin with Miss Saba Arif. Could you please share your 3 top tips on ensuring compliance when opening up a brand new squat practice?
Hello, Fozia. Thank you for the
Hello.
introduction. So when opening up a brand new squat practice, is it echo, guys? Or are you guys okay?
No, it's okay.
No, they're
All right.
absolutely fine. Okay, that's fine because there's 2 people in the room. So basically, when you're opening up a dream squat practice, from a compliance point of view, there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. One of the main one is when to submit your CQC application form. A lot of the time we get clients coming to us last minute. So when the build work is nearly done, and then they're like, oh, Saba, we need to submit the application form because now we've completed the build work. There is a long waiting line when it comes to CQC applications. Because apart from the 2 CQC applications that need submitting, we also need to submit the countersigned DBS form, which now is taking, again, 12 to 18 weeks in order to be processed. So we always recommend all of our clients, or anybody looking to open a squat practice, as soon as you get the keys, please get on top of your CQC application forms, get on top of your DBS, and get everything ready in order to submit, because CQC does take a long time, especially now because there's a new portal. So what happens is you log onto the portal, they send you a verification code, and after the verification code, you submit the new provider application. When you submit the new provider application, now they don't give you a reason. If there's any issues, they will give you an option either to cancel or withdraw. So the reason could be anything, like it could be like a policy issue, or it could be like a supporting document issue. So then the whole application doesn't even start until the initial provider application is sorted. So once that's sorted, then you would get another link to your manager's application that you would need to complete. So because of the new CQC portal, it's become extremely difficult now to submit CQC application. Even if you use an external company, we rely a lot on our clients to give us the information. So number 1 top tip, get your application sorted out straight away. The second thing a lot of people forget is your risk assessments. So you do need to make sure that all the risk assessments are carried out before the inspector comes out to inspect. There's 4 mandatory risk assessments that need to be carried out by an external body, which are your fire risk assessment, your Legionella risk assessment, health and safety, and disability risk assessments. So they need to be completed in a timely manner before the inspector comes out. And my last tip is the registered manager interview. Some people take the interview very lightly. It is a 4 to 6 hours interview. During the first stage of the interview, they will have a walk around of the practice and look at the practice. And then within the second stage, they ask you various different scenario-based questions. So it is something that you definitely have to prepare. You need to understand your policies inside out. You need to understand what would be your audit schedules and risk assessment schedules, because these are some of the areas that the CQC do ask you about. So you're already nervous, and then if they ask you a scenario which you're not sure of, and they've used some sort of a terminology which you haven't come across, it can be a bit daunting. So again, my tip will be try to do at least like 3 mock interviews, or try to rehearse before doing your registered manager interview, in order to make sure that you are fully confident and you can answer all the questions. And these are my main top tips. Obviously, I will be discussing the timeline of the CQC application, how to submit, when to submit, what to expect. If you don't pass the registered manager interview, what would happen next? So I'll be discussing that on the 27th of September at the DreamScott conference. Thank you.
That is a really great, Saba. Thank you so much. It's really insightful. So, giving people that confidence that they need to kind of pass that, registered manager interview. And it's really nice that you can provide that. So I'm going to take you guys to George now. George, what are your 3 tips for financial planning and securing insurance for a new spot practice?
Thanks, Fawzia. Nice to see you all. So, yeah, my name's George. We're the insurance partner to the British Dental Association. So from my perspective, 3 key things. First and foremost is to look at your core insurance and what you have set up there. So, following on from Saba, when you're going through your CQC application, you'll need to have proof of the readiment of insurance cover by law. So employer's liability cover, for example, is what you require by law. You can find proof of this ready by just obtaining a quotation from us or another brokerage, of course, and having that to make up part of your application. So you won't be able to complete that CQC application without that. Obviously, the earlier you do that and the more information you can provide us, we can have everything ready to just get in place as and when you get the keys and you start trading, or shortly before. The other legal requirement is, of course, your pressure plant. So typically compressors and autoclaves in and around the practice. You need those inspected and a written scheme of examination report. Again, something we can offer, and all of that information I can provide on the day, on the 27th. And then otherwise, for core insurance cover, if you're buying a property, make sure that you've had both a reinstatement cost valuation and you've looked at a valuation for all of the stock and the contents within your practice, whether it's new or whether you're taking over an existing practice, ensuring that you're not over or under insuring yourself, and having those conversations with your broker. And obviously looking to get proof that all of the dental professionals within the group or within your practice have the necessary indemnity cover that's required in order to trade. So something as simple as that. We've seen shortfalls in people attempting to open before. Secondly, just having a robust plan, really. We'd look at a business continuity plan. So things that are going to either consolidate or guarantee you income, such as a patient plan. If you're taking over an existing practice, for example, where there's an existing patient book, to try and regulate that income to you as a business, a patient plan that can be white labeled and designed bespokely for you through us is something that we can also talk about, and what that looks like and how it can actually guarantee you regular income. It's often favourable for a new or a squat practice to ensure that there aren't months where trade is a lot lower, especially if you're trying to increase your patient numbers. Other ancillary products such as cyber liability, we're seeing that as a massive issue at the moment for what we class as small to medium enterprises or individual practices in the market. So we can offer free cyber assessments. We'd go through looking at your URL and domain name online for any business, especially if you're setting one up afresh, and how to sort of regulate your cyber exposure. Obviously, you're not necessarily selling online, but you're, as per GDPR, you're the data holder of all of those patient records. So you want to make sure that all of that is secure and you know what to do in the event of an incident. Management liability as well. Typically, businesses in their infancy are known to fall foul where it comes to regulatory issues, maybe tax, independent issues with directors and disputes and any other legal issues, making sure you've got the legal advice and counsel around that to navigate those issues if unfortunately they may happen within the first few months or year of you trading, and also just peace of mind for employees to know that that covers there in place for them as well. And then lastly, my tip would be to go and find independent financial advice to support the insurance that you're going to be putting in place when you start your practice. So have an annual financial review with a new advisor. Make sure they're whole of market, so you're getting good value for money and bespoke products for the dental sector. Have regular meetings with your directors, your co-partners and owners, and make sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of a long and short-term plans for the business. Look at other offers in the market, make sure you're doing your due diligence in terms of suppliers, different credit lines, lenders, payment processing. That's another thing that I'll be talking about quite readily in London. And then the other core covers as well to support you in practice, such as income protection, critical illness, of course, covering income to you if you fall unwell, and life insurance as well, especially if you have other assets at play. So all of those things would make up a rounded product that we can offer here from Lloyd & White, and excited to talk to you all about it on the 27th. Oh, I think you may be on mute, Fawzia.
Here we go. Thank you so much, George, for the lovely insights on how they can actually really benefit, and the attendees can benefit from the financial planning side of things when it comes to opening a SWOT practice. I'm going to hand you over to Vikas, who will be giving you 3 top tips on creating an effective communication strategy for your new practice.
Thanks, Fawzia. Hello all. Thank you for having me. So 3 top tips for creating an effective communication strategy for a new SWOT practice. Number 1, I would say you need to create the right impression. Even though we're in 2024, obviously social media has become a massive introduction point for practices, obviously, as well as website. But the main method of communication between patient and practice still is the telephone. And you want to ensure that impression comes across when a patient picks up the phone to call your practice. Especially at the start, as a SWOT practice, most calls that you will receive will be from new patients. And it's really important that the impression that you've gone to create so far via a nice website, via a good social media platform, comes across when they call you also. You don't want that situation where a call isn't even answered, or a patient calls in and they get an engaged tone, for example. It's effectively, suicide if you are going to break your back to offer a 5-star service to a patient who will then come in, leave absolutely satisfied, leave you a 5-star Google review, which will obviously in turn help to generate more calls into your practice. When people are searching for a practice in your area, they're going to pick up the phone to you and that call isn't dealt with, or the call isn't even answered. We're all living in an impatient world, and if a patient is Googling, dental practice Chiswick, for example, and is looking at 10 phone numbers, if they've called yours and your call wasn't answered, they're not going to wait around and call back in 5 minutes. They're calling one of the other 9 phone numbers, which is, staring them in the face, as it were. So yeah, number 1 is definitely create the right impression, first impression in particular. Number 2, we would say, is giving yourself the best opportunity to close an inquiry. Effectively, whether we like it or not, dentistry is a sales business as well as, medical and healthcare. Practices are looking to generate revenue, especially private practices in particular, high value treatments, and how those inquiries are dealt with makes a massive difference. And you want to give yourself the best opportunity to get those patients booked in. If somebody is calling in with an Invisalign inquiry, for example, how that call is handled is absolutely essential. So, for example, say If you have a trained TCO who's answering that call, you will give yourself a better opportunity. With the right communication system in place, which we can offer, you can have calls which are routed specifically to certain skilled members of staff. So if it's a new patient inquiry, it will go to a dedicated TCO who's available to answer that call. Also, we have found previously with our customers, depending on where they are based in the UK, they've struggled to find trained TCOs who are qualified enough to be able to answer new patient inquiries to work in a practice, depending on the geography of the practice of where they're based in the UK. So what they've actually done is found staff in other areas of the country who are able to answer those calls. And with the right system, you can have remote workers in place who are very well connected into the practice as far as the patient is concerned or other members of staff. They're sitting right there with you, and through the technology which was on offer to us today, we can ensure that they're well connected, and effectively you can have anyone in the world, anywhere in the world, answering the call for you. And obviously they'll be trained to answer that call, giving yourself the best opportunity to make sure that patient is booked in and coming in for their free consultation, as it were. Number 3 is just ensuring system flexibility. Dental practices are quite unique to your typical average, small to medium-sized business. And most of our inquiries come from practices who have been with corporate telecom companies previously, who haven't been able to offer them flexibility, whether it's we're closed on a Thursday afternoon for staff training, and we need to be able to just adjust our message so that patient's called, they're aware, or whether it's setting a bank holiday message. Your system needs to be flexible. You need to have that flexibility where you can make those changes yourself if you need to, or then you're getting the service from your provider who are willing to do that for you at short notice. Also, you need that flexibility in terms of scaling your business. At the minute, we're talking about squat practices, and obviously 1, 2, 3 years to come, you expect the business to grow. The requirements might change. Staff numbers will increase as patient numbers increase, and you need to be able to add to your system without having to, change the whole infrastructure, without changing the system, without changing the setup. You want to know that once you're committed to a system, that you'll be able to add to it easily without, huge layout of, new infrastructure or new hardware or anything like that. So it's important from day one that you're not just factoring in your requirements today, but what your requirements might be tomorrow. And there are 3 top tips. There's obviously a lot more flexibility and bespoke setups which practices might require, but we'd say they're the 3 main areas that you need to consider, which, first and foremost come before the luxuries of, integrating your telephone system with your PMS and things like that. That's something which I would always say to our customers, it's something which you can look at later on as you become more established. For now, get the basics right.
Thank you, Vikas. That was really, really like out of the box ideas that people can implement when they're opening their squat practice. So that's really insightful. So I'm going to take you guys over to Harpreet. Harpreet Nerman, from a tech perspective, what are your 3 top tips for setting up a solid IT infrastructure for a new practice?
Sure. Thank you for having me, by the way. Firstly, I think before we look at opening up that box full of gadgets, is first playing around with the gadgets at the expos, seeing what your vision is and what your budget is, and trying to find something that meets the expectation. So first would be to go down to these expos, play around with everything, see what you like, and normally you can get a really good rate at the expos compared to just going directly to them. I'm talking about digital imaging equipment because it's ever evolving. Practice management systems, for instance, SOE or Dentally or one of the others. So it's kind of finding what your practice is going to look like in the digital space, because we all know before we even open practice what kind of logo we want, what color scheme we're going to have at the reception. But the more important stuff is making sure it works. For instance, because you can't pick up a phone call without a really, really good internet connection. You know, it's having the solid foundation for a successful next gen practice. So that would be my first tip. And play around with the market leaders equipment, because what you normally find is when you're recruiting for your staff, you'll most likely have better chances of finding nurses and dentists and reception that have had much more experience with a certain software or a certain digital X-ray equipment. So that way the training isn't as much or as painful when you have got your A team ready. So have a look at the market leaders, I think, because they're there for a reason. And most likely the staff have used those equipment or software before. Next tip would be to, what I do is, you know, if we're looking at buying a house, make sure we've got a really good internet connection, because working from home is now such a big thing. You wouldn't buy a house without looking at if it's got really good fiber. I think we need to do the same thing when we're looking at locations, especially if we've got multiple locations, because as you know, if fiber is not available, you'll be going down the route of a lease line, and that can start at £300 a month plus just for internet. So you don't want any nasty surprises after you've signed the lease or bought the building. So do your homework just before then, because what we find is we'll place an order, or they'll place an order for the fiber, and we all know with BT or Virgin, they'll say, yes, I'll get it to you next week, but we're still waiting 8 weeks and there's no internet. Without internet, there's not much you can do. So I would recommend...
Sorry to interrupt there, H, but
Yeah.
just to absolutely second H's top tip there, absolutely makes sense. So we come across that all the time.
Yeah.
Massive headache. So yeah, definitely something that you need to consider.
Yeah.
Good top tip.
Thank you. Another tip you know what, I'm going to give you a bonus tip for that, is introduce the suppliers you're going to work with to the other suppliers. The sooner you introduce everyone, your A team, your builders, your digital X-ray equipment, your phone guys, put them all in an email saying, hey guys, this is who I'm using for this. Because there's many times we've spoken to on hold to say, okay, when are you doing your bit? Where are you placing your phones? Because the builders would need to ensure there's network points in each location where the phones, where other network devices like computers, digital X-ray equipment, Wi-Fi equipment, because nowadays more and more devices are becoming more connected. So you need to ensure you got a really, really good infrastructure set up. So we together, as suppliers, we worked with each other for many, many years, most of our suppliers. So we know who the contacts are. So we'll speak to them to say, have you thought about adding another 2 network points in each surgery? One for backup, in case one breaks. Because the last thing you want to do as an owner is to start ripping out the wall and replacing a cable with a trunking nasty. It doesn't look nice. So introduce the suppliers at early stages. The next tip would be to, actually the last one is double up on your cabling for your TVs. So if you're going to have a nice flash TV on the wall for your X-rays, the HDMI lead is going to go to the computer. Just put another one in, because we all know HDMI leads, they have a life of a couple of years. So if you've got another one in there, you can just literally unplug one, plug the other one in. And it's small things like this that will save you a lot of money in the future. And these are the lessons we've learned, been in business for 40 odd years now, that just double up on some stuff that you can do right now, because it's painful to have to rip up the walls. So that's my 3 tips I would recommend.
Thank you. That was very, very insightful. So I'm glad that you could share those top tips with us today, Harpreet. So thank you all actually for your expert tips and practical advice. Halfway through our webinar now, and I want to remind you that the Dream Squat seminar will dive much deeper into the topics that we've touched on today. Also, we will be having even more of a star-studied lineup of speakers. So we're going to be having Shiraz Mir from Excel Contractors, who will provide you insights on the essentials and building and construction side of things for your practice. We're going to have the lovely Shaz Meeman from Digimax Dental. He will help you, guide you through these effective strategies for marketing your brand and practice, helping you create a powerful online presence. Okay, the digital forefront of your business. Piers Andrews from Dentally Software of Excellence will discuss patient management systems and how to effectively build and maintain your patient diary. Okay, and that is the core when you want to start out opening your own practice. Okay, so whether you're starting out or looking to just take your practice to the next level, wherever you are on your journey, join us at the main event, the Dream Squat Seminar, which is going to be on the 27th of September. And the best part, guys, tickets are priced at just £28. Okay. All proceeds from the seminar will go to Wales on Wheels, which is a registered charity funded by Shaz Meeman from Digimax Dental himself. So just 28 quid, and you'll be donating a water wheel to help young women in rural India transport water to their families. Okay, so do a good deed, guys, and head over to eventbrite.co.uk, search Dream Squat to secure your seat. And my favorite quote in the whole world: teamwork makes the dream work, guys. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to meeting you all there. I'm going to leave you guys with a clip of what's to come on the 27th of September. So thank you again to all you lovely speakers that have joined us today, and thank you guys for joining us. And here is a little clip of what's to come, so stay tuned, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and have a lovely rest of your lunch break. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar, and hopefully see you guys all at the main event. Bye, guys.
See you guys next month. Bye.
See you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks so much.